Hi, I'm Taylor. I want to talk about how the forecast sheet works. And the forecast sheet is the core part of the model where all the core calculations are maintained and kept. It's the most important sheet to use for creating a revenue and expense forecast. There's a couple major primary sections here. One is the core section for inputting your forecast of revenues and expenses. It's not separated by accounting treatment, but the accounting treatment is determined by the categories. And then the model will use the categories to then create the financial statements, which are organized basically by a typical accounting treatment and layout. The categories themselves are, by and large, variables. So this total by category section, you have the opportunity to kind of change the descriptive terms that are used for cost of sales, for your number of SG&A categories, for revenue categories. You can, if you want to insert more categories, you can insert rows, create your own labels for them. If you need some more revenue categories or more SG&A categories, if you want more detail there, you have the flexibility to adjust that and adjust how they're used. You also have a section for like operating metrics, which is where you would track users or subscribers or clients or customers or orders or whatever metric is valuable or important for you to use in kind of creating your forecast. A number of the categories are in black or are not intended to be inputs, and that's because they're used structurally to handle certain accounting items throughout the rest of the model. The rest of the sheet on here is around more detailed calculations around accounts receivable, revenue recognition, depreciation, capex, kind of inventory calculations if necessary. You have some flexibility here in terms of changing the terminology that's used. You could change cost of goods sold to the COGS, for example, or SG&A and type in operating expenses or whatever kind of logic you want to use to. The logic is tied to those specific lines, like they have to represent the same meaning, but you can change the label that's used there as well. That's part of the rest of the model. Now, the core part of using the input structure for forecasted revenues expenses, you have a lot of flexibility in how you want to use this. You could input your expense or your revenue item. They don't have to be in any order. You can directly type over the formulas here and type in direct revenues as well if you want to. You can create your own schedule of revenues or expenses somewhere else and link them into this section, kind of overriding the formulas. I know there's a formula in the cells, but they are intended to also be input cells, so feel free to overwrite them with whatever logic you want to. But there is a pre-built logic built into the model kind of in this section. And the way this works is it's built to help you kind of create growth forecasts or changes of any kind of expense or revenue or something over time. And so the basic columns are set for a couple of use cases. So one, you can set like the starting point, like initial value, right? So we'll start with 100. And then we can say what period it starts in. Right, let's say 1. And right now, you'll see this 100 comes in month 1. I could change this to 2 or 3, for example, if I wanted the first starting period to be a different period other than the first. Now I say it repeats. So I can say it repeats every month. I could also say it repeats every 5 months, for example. So I create some repeat kind of cadence with it. And then, given on the repeat cadence, does it change? Right, so perhaps maybe just this base assumption just says, hey, just the number stays the same kind of going across, but I can create a change assumption. And I can say it's a percentage change, a number change, a log change, or I can say a percentage of or a number per for you as one of the drivers. The percentage change and number change is fairly straightforward. Percentage change changes every month, changes by 5%. So automatically creates a 5% growth rate. I can do the same thing and say it's a number change, changes every month, changes by, usually I'll change the format, but changes by 500% or 5. Now it changes by 10 every period. Now it doesn't change every period. It could change every, maybe every 3 months it goes up. So now every 3 months it goes up by, by that same amount. This is useful for costs that may change on an annual basis. Maybe your insurance costs go up. Maybe your increase your salaries to individual hires we have here goes up 10% every 12 months, for example. So it's very easy to kind of create a logic here that kind of reflects that, where it stays the same and it kind of goes up, at the end of every year effectively from like start period, date of hire. Now, the other additional way to use this is through the drivers. So you have a chance of percentage of and dollar per. Now, percentage of is going to now percentage of something. I have to use this driver to reflect it. So I can say it's a percentage of revenues, a percentage of salaries, a percentage of cost of goods sold, whatever. The most common ways to utilize this would be to say something is like a percentage of revenues. So this revenues description is just an item that I have to kind of label here. I could say this is revenues or subscription revenues or whatever. I could create a cost of goods sold line item, which is a percentage of revenues. I could create a cost of goods sold for physical product, which is a percentage of revenues, or a dollar of revenues, right? It's like a number per revenues. I could use some of the lines here to forecast out like users or orders. And I could say a cost of revenue. I could say a revenue is a $5 per order, for example. Or if this is reflects subscribers, I could say it's $19 per subscriber, right? If I would just kind of select per operating metric from here. Since these are flexible, so I can go down to here and maybe I'm gonna create a forecast of subscribers. I create a forecast of subscribers up here. I select subscribers through the drop down, and now I see subscribers as an option. So now I can say it's $1 per subscriber, whatever that cost may be. Maybe it's this is now for like total subscribers. Perhaps I want to break out another metric which said new subscribers. And then over here I'll have one line to calculate subscribers. I'll have another line to calculate out new subscribers. Now, feed new subscribers through, I can now select the cost of being a new subscriber. Maybe I'm doing an onboarding or a one-time cost, or I have selling a hardware unit to every new subscriber, and then they pay a subscription fee afterwards. So I could set a revenue line which says, hey, it's $10 for every new subscriber, and then $5 for every existing kind of subscriber kind of going on. And these will reflect both total as well as new, depending upon how you've input the numbers. So there's a lot of flexibility in being able to kind of utilize this input structure. If you get stuck, ask anytime. I'm happy to help. Thanks.